GAWR GURA. I'm not 100% sure even if I'm pronouncing her name right now. But if you're not aware, this woman is a little bit super famous as a VTuber, but also as a singer. And well, I did a video not so long ago where I was talking about, well, her position and the fact that she's recently left Hololive, the biggest VTuber agency. And, you know, there was a whole conversation that we had there, which was really interesting. And I have been getting to know Hololive a lot over the last few months, being more familiar, obviously, with the Japanese music industry in, you know, the non-VTuber space before that. And really, this whole thing of her leaving Hololive was the first time she went from being this massive monolithic name that I'd heard to actually being able to put a face and everything to it. But anyway, whilst I was doing this video, I got some lovely comments telling me that apparently she's releasing this song that we'll be looking at today called Ash Again. Apparently it came out and it's written with someone called Casey Edwards. Got to be honest, I have no idea who Casey Edwards is. I'm assuming this is a Western gentleman because I have not come across his name at all. But then looking at a lot of the stuff that he's worked on, these do seem to be like Japanese video games. So I could be totally wrong. You never judge a book by its cover. I don't know. It's like it's a Western name, but could be a Japanese person. It's not really important, but it's very interesting to me because obviously it might inform what kind of sounds that they go for here. And so in this case, anyway, the main thing is it appears that this is a final goodbye song because she's leaving the agency in, you know, a week and a half now. So I would be surprised if there's more songs on top of this. It's an interesting chance to get to hear this gentleman, Casey Edwards, who's worked on seemingly a lot of video game music, which is, to be honest, actually, I'm a bit of a sucker for soundtrack music. So that, to me, is a really positive sign, straight off the bat. And yeah, I'm finally finding out a little bit more just as she's leaving. Anyway, let's get into this. I'll give you a little bit of a setup before we go into it. It's 5 minutes. Apologies again if there's any super cool references in this that I miss. Do let me know, get in the comments, because I remember when I saw the Mikorane video, that was amazing. I thought I was catching all the references the first time I watched it, and then the more I watched it, it was more and more references. No idea what this is going to be. Let's jump in and check it out.
Face to face with time again. We walk once more to the end. Burn it down, burn it down. I
love it's a really good sort of building energy. You can feel that something's coming.
Burn it down, burn it down. They say the memory of me is fading. I've heard it all before. Don't tell me everyone around is waiting.
You can tell the feeling in this, can't you? Okay. You really feel there's a sort of building energy to this. I'm liking that little bit of string over the top there. You can feel that it's setting up the groundwork for like a big crescendo. I get the feeling. Video imagery is cool, but I've got to be honest, I love her voice in this. A very good sort of haunting, calm voice. I'm loving the anime styling. They were going all out on this one, but and they'll all pay. I do feel like the sense of drama is beautifully conveyed in the visual, and the way that it leans on her having this chilled vocal style is really nice. It's just making me feel that I really want to know a lot more about what's going on behind these lyrics. Oh, that's a bit interesting. This is, I'm fascinated by the lyrics and the imagery, I'll be honest with you. And she's wearing her outfit. That is fascinating. And then open the door. Go in on the imagery. Go in on the imagery. Do it. All right. Lyrics written and produced. Oh, wait. Music and lyrics written, produced by Casey Edwards. Interesting. Okay, just having a quick look at some of the credits here. Ash again. Okay. This one is fascinating. Fascinating. Now, obviously, the big thing to put here, the big thing to put here is that there's a very strong sense of potential allegory. No, just like potential implication of what is being said here. Now, this puts me in an interesting point because I want to talk about the music, but we have to start by talking about what's going on here. Now, my knowledge, obviously, of the individual situation with GAWR GURA is not super in depth, but then again, I have listened to her recording about leaving. I'm obviously quite familiar with how a lot of these companies work in the background. And so the one thing I know is, as a general, people never know as much as they think they know, and even if you ask the people actual word of mouth and they tell you the truth, there's probably a difference of opinion. So in a way, I don't want to get involved in all of the reading too much into it. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it leads to anything. However, you can't put this out as your final song and be like, oh, I didn't realize that it's like, oh. So obviously they knew what was going on here. Now, it was interesting because I don't know with GAWR GURA if she does do any lyric writing, but it's interesting that the lyrics were entirely attributed to our friend Casey Edwards here. And yeah, it just says vocals for GAWR GURA, which is interesting because, again, it makes it very clear that that is that's the role. So there's a million one reasons. I mean, usually if the artist even like writes one word, they'll get a writing credit because that's kind of like, it's a good way of pumping up the artist. Or it could be, in this case, not giving her any writing credit is a good way to avoid any responsibility. Both of those things could be true. Again, don't 100% believe credits on songs. They get chosen more than anything. So Really, when it comes to what people could read into this, most important thing is that we don't know what she might be referring to. So many lyrics in here about my words will speak for myself, not being silenced, not being forced to say what other people want to say. This obviously could be seen as a reference to what some had claimed about, when you leave an agency, you have to kind of read a slightly pre-decided script. But that, again, I think that her goodbye message that she left was a very honest sounding one. And I have no reason to think anything negative about Hololive. To be honest, from everything I've seen, they seem to be pretty decent. So it seems that her leaving might have been some bad blood. I mean, let's face it, again, you're not going to put out this song if there wasn't some bad blood, I wouldn't think. But I'm intrigued, and I have no horse in this race, but I also have no reason to believe bad on either party. So let's just get that out the way first of all, because wow, this song is big on the drama. I will say the video did a fantastic job of conveying that drama, even for someone who doesn't 100% get the references in regards to GAWR GURA. At least I was really taken in by the way that this video kind of built up towards that ending. I mean, there was maybe things I might have been missing, but I did notice. I mean, again, she starts in this setting that for all intents and purposes looks a little bit like a padded cell or even a cage. The imagery is very clear, it's very on the nose. Then what happens next? Then she's out there. She's got this kind of doppelganger, assumingly the two sides of herself. I mean, you could very easily, without even getting context, read that into the basic, me as my character versus me as a real person, or me within the confines of a company versus me as the free person, or me as the person who you see online versus me, the person who, by her own admission, is quite shy, maybe retiring, maybe socially awkward. The sort of imagery of like attacking the ship, I thought that was visually really awesome, even if I didn't necessarily get what was going on there. I loved the sort of imagery. It was nice and powerful. It came across pretty cool. I think sometimes so I don't watch a huge amount of anime, despite being in Japan and being really into Japanese music. I've watched like 2 animes ever, but a lot of the time I think like anime action often reminds me a lot like over CGI'd action, in that it's all so much that it loses any weight. So I was kind of like impressed when I saw this, like the whole explosiveness. This really felt punchy. Like a massive credit to the people who did the visuals for this. And there was that scene that I think is the thumbnail where she's walking along and it cuts to the hands pulling her back. Again, beautiful. Also heavy imagery. Can I just point out, by the way, if anyone is anti-Hololive at this moment, just remember this came out on Hololive's channel. They allowed her to release this. So, I mean, clearly, you've got to show some love to both sides for that. And just like, if this is the end, it's very clear, giving herself so many opportunities. So I think the biggest thing about this for me is the no more hands upon my words. I thought that was a massive one. But then again, that could as much refer to people in the public domain trying to twist and assume what she's saying. And that could be an interesting thing, because if she's here saying, I don't want people assuming what I mean, it would be interesting to see people take this song out of context, and therefore that would be a very good example of that. But it could also equally mean that she thought the company was, controlling her words, So there's a million ways you could look at that. So this for me was really, I really loved the fact that this was so engaging, even for someone like me who's kind of like coming into this. I would say I've got an above average knowledge of Hololive now. I'm pretty familiar with that. I've got definitely a much better knowledge of how things work here in Japan. And GAWR GURA is like, I got virtually zero knowledge, other than what I got from what you guys said in that wonderful comment section below the last video. Fight the drought. Yeah, there's every single word seems to be, once you realize what's going on, that's a cool image. Every single word seems to really jump out in this one. So this obviously leaves us to the second part, which is the music. Now, from the perspective of the music, I'm always honest on this channel, 100% honest. Did I think the song was good, and do I think it was dramatic? Yeah, I think it was dramatic. It had a good feel to it. Definitely felt very atmospheric. I think it greatly used her voice, because clearly, whether by choice or not, it was, she's not doing a big powerful vocal here. She's doing more of a sort of a contemplative vocal, and it sounded very good in her voice. Her voice definitely seemed to suit that style. And the song was written to convey that. So even in its louder bits, her voice was sort of like this haunting central narrative of what we were hearing coming across in the music. Now, with that all being said, I must say that I think that the song did a great job of the build-up at the beginning, but it definitely suffered from what I would describe as, and again, no, I don't know anything about Casey Edwards, but it sounded a lot like a Western style dramatic song to me, in that it was all these big held changing chords moving like this throughout the song, and that's kind of okay, but it sort of just becomes a little bit predictable after a while. And also I felt like the song was building up to something, and for me the lyrics, the credit, Casey Edwards wrote the lyrics that Casey wrote, and the video that was done for this definitely conveyed the drama. But I felt like the ending kind of needed a bit more. It felt a little bit lacking, and like there could have been more orchestration. I felt like it needed something a little bit more orchestral, which is interesting because for someone who's clearly done a lot of soundtrack work, that's kind of where I was hoping this would go, I think. And of course, hopes versus expectations. Just because it's not what I hoped for doesn't mean it's bad. But I do feel like the ending, it had that great punch in from the bridge where suddenly, bam, it comes in. But then, yeah, I just felt like there was maybe like there was those little strings sort of arpeggios happening in the background. That could have maybe been turned up a bit louder in the mix. I just felt for something that sounded this grand, it was a bit too focused on the chord by chord part of the arrangement. So, and also just the occasional sort of dramatic changing of the chords or something like that would have added something more to give it a little bit more punch at some point. Just walk down a couple of chords. So for me, I liked it, but I think it was probably not one I would come back to super often, just because I felt like it was one of those ones where it has like initial impact, but when you repeat listen to something, it's those little nuances that make you come back, those little bits or those little changes that happen maybe once or twice in the song, whereas this kind of felt like each of the chorus felt a little bit like it was the same chorus again. They didn't feel like they built up hugely. So I'm in two minds about this. Like, it dramatically very effective, very good first listen kind of song, but I don't know if it would necessarily be one I'd come back for repeat listens to, just because I kind of felt like it was setting itself up for more. I would love to hear an orchestral version of this. I don't know. The good thing, we got like a near to where I am. There's like a big orchestral theatre. There's a proper word for that, and I can't think of. Why can't I think of the proper word for that? There's God damn it. But there's a big orchestral theatre, like concert hall, I guess you'd call it. And they have like obviously a lot of concerts there, and one of them that you can see occasionally is the orchestra who does video game music. And this guy clearly does video game music. I would love it if like they did an orchestral version of this, because this just sounds like a song that would just totally blow up as an orchestral version. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I thought this was cool. I really enjoyed this. I thought there was a lot going on here. I think her central performance was perfectly apt. I think that the lyrics, whether entirely by Casey or not, were very interesting. I think the song itself was very good at conveying drama, and the production was pretty nice as well. Could have probably done with just a little bit more nuance, just a few little more moments to give it a little bit more of an edge, to make it sound a little less predictable would have helped. Visually, the music video was fucking brilliant, really strong stuff. And even then, I'm not usually big into those sort of big metaphor kind of videos, but this just felt like it worked. And that scene as well, I paused that perfectly. That looks awesome as hell. So yeah, this was good stuff. I really could definitely say that I would recommend this to people. Definitely recommend it to people. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are, both about the messaging. Once again, let's stay away from just like assumptions, because again, we don't know anything, but it'd be really cool if you're a fan of GAWR GURA to see what references you might have picked up on. And if you know anything about what she said about this song, would be really cool. And yeah, get in the comments, tell me what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.